My name is Erica Stokes, and I work for West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District in Portland, Oregon, and I'm an education coordinator. I'm going to talk about backyard habitat certification and how we do that at schools primarily, even though it's typically a program that is done on residential properties. Backyard habitat is an important issue because wildlife habitat across not only our country but the world is declining rapidly, as I'm sure you folks in Japan know. It's important for us here to connect children with backyard habitat so they can understand that nature that's out when they're hiking in the Columbia Gorge, for example, it can be created right on their school property or at their homes. I'm currently standing in the Chapman Garden. We are in the process, as you can probably tell by some of our signage, of certifying this garden. What it means to certify for backyard habitat is that the garden has met 4 criteria: stormwater management, taking out invasive weeds, putting in native plants, and creating wildlife habitat. This school is in the process of doing all of those things. As you look around, you might notice that invasive weeds have been removed. We've incorporated a bunch of native plants, for example, the thimbleberry that's behind me and some of the aster and some of the wild strawberry species are native. If there's a certain percentage of those that you have to do in order to meet the criteria, the children are now working on creating wildlife habitat for that specific component of backyard habitat. Here that will probably mean boxes for mason bees or a nurse log, which is a way to bring amphibian species into the garden. It's always a challenge to work with schools. They always have their own process, and in Portland we're fortunate to have over 5 school districts, and each of those has their own set of criteria for putting in gardens. As long as you plan ahead, this garden took about a year out to actually implement. That seems to be the one hurdle. Otherwise, the community's been very invested, the children are invested, and it's important for us to help cultivate a sense of stewardship in the children so that this garden is something that they take care of for years to come. Part of the reason we do this work at schools is because it's a wonderful place for the community to visit. This garden is not only something that students use during their school day, but as people pass by this park or parents come to volunteer, we're hopefully educating them as well. I wanted to show you guys a really cool feature in this garden, a lesson that I was able to point out to the children just the other day. This wild ginger plant next to me, you'll notice it has a lot of holes and insect damage, which conventionally people think is a bad part of the garden, but for us putting habitats in, that means these animals are using it and native creatures are coming here. The camellia bush that's here next to me, this giant bush, as you notice, has what would be considered really beautiful undamaged leaves. This plant has been here forever and no insects are visiting it, which means it's not supporting native wildlife. Thus, we're really, really happy to know that the plants we're putting in are already right away being used by other creatures. Hopefully that will help support nesting birds and all kinds of other species that visit this garden. I'm curious if there are any initiatives like this in Japan, and if a lot of native plants are used in public or private landscapes. And if you have any similar hurdles, is it challenging to work with schools or government projects difficult, or are people pretty invested in doing this collaboration? Thank you.